Welcome to the tank that took 2 years to plan, a week to scape, 10 different kinds of plants, 5 different substrates, a bunch of what I call cheats. I couldn't work out a number of things, including what plants to use, the place to put the tank, the light to use, or even the occupants. Some things worked out, a lot of things did not. So excited, the wrapping is finally off. After over 2 years, this tank has sat pretty much like this, with the substrate, with some rocks I planned on using. This substrate I do like. It is like a black diamond sand from PetSmart. I'm not really quite sure how the plants react to it. We've had tanks that did not do well, like the plants on the initial setup. We're going to find out how it does. One of the cheats that I have is very mismatched hardscaping. Who says you have to use only one kind of rock? I'm not going to. These pieces most likely will be covered in a lot of plants anyways, and I just needed to bump up this beautiful bonsai driftwood that I would have gotten from Flip Aquatics a number of years ago. They are a channel sponsor. And that's another thing I'm kind of cheating on, is this bonsai driftwood is generally put inside the water. I'm not putting it inside the water. I'm putting outside of the water, because I feel like it, and it's kind of an autumn-inspired scape. I do go through a little bit of super glue gel. It is fish safe, aquarium safe, plant safe. And I'm using cotton balls ripped up in little pieces to kind of fill the gaps between the rocks and the driftwood. It works really well, and once you use super glue with the cotton, you can also use cotton batting, filter floss. It will become very kind of gummy, and then it'll turn like really hard, and it'll create a really excellent bond. It can just be a little tricky to get in the nooks and crannies. This scape did take about a week to complete, and the fun fact is, right here, I had no idea still who I was putting in here. A lot of the cotton is visible, but that's okay. It will be under the water, and plants hopefully will cover it. However, in order to kind of mask that, you can use sand while the glue is still wet. I'm using a larger grain sand that's working really well, and a root touch-up brush, which works very well to get into those little cracks. And I will link an Amazon affiliate link for a bunch of them, because I do go through a lot, because the super glue and stuff gets all wadded on there. And there's some falling off into the substrate, which is what I wanted, because I don't want it a pure black substrate. This is another substrate coming in, so the count of substrates is now 3, and this is another cheat. I didn't put the aquatic soil, and that's what the fluval stratum is. It's an aquatic soil, so that gives you your nutrients. I decided to do this instead of root tabs because I needed it just more spread out throughout. I don't know, I just felt like doing that. And then I'm doing it backwards. I put the substrate down first, and now the aquatic soil. Usually you put the aquatic soil down first and then the sand cap on top of it, but I'm making little wells with this handy dandy little teaspoon, whatever size it is, and I'm burying it a variety of different ways, seeing which way I like better. It's no rhyme or reason whatsoever, and if the aquatic soil pops up on the top, I don't care. It's the same color as the substrate. Doesn't matter at all. Here's another substrate. This is what, the 4th? And these are these little tiny river rocks. I'm just in love with them. I will link this as well. I get a lot of questions what this magical little substrate is. It's one of my favorites. And this is another one from Zuxai, our local fish store. Love it. And it's like a larger, I want to say it is Red Flint brand, like a larger sand or a small gravel. I am adding a small piece of driftwood here in the back. It'll either come in handy for planting, so attaching plants, or bumping up the substrate in the back if I choose to later. Not quite sure. I have a small assortment of spider wood that I am using to kind of extend the roots of the bonsai tree, so it looks like it's growing down into the water. A couple tips here. First is, whenever you need to glue anything for an aquascape, do it only when you have the time and the patience, because guaranteed it won't behave, and you quite possibly will just wind up gluing your fingers to something instead. Second tip is, the more driftwood that you use, the more your tank will cloud up, the more your tank will get kind of that tannin sort of look, that darker feel. And of course, if you're really lucky, that white fuzzy stuff on your driftwood for at least a week or two, but it does no harm, and the fish usually eat it anyway. So this is the first round of planting, and I've got Boos, I've got Bacopa. Both of those were from, I believe, Pet Smart, and then from Petco, I do have Crypt Parva, which is like the tiniest crypt, and I do love it. I was so excited. I've never seen it before at Petco. I first like to scout a preliminary placement and see kind of how it looks. Now this little aquarium, this little 3.5 gallon aquarium, is what I would call either like a beginner's paludarium or a faux paludarium. You'll see why in a little bit. There's some more cheats coming up. But Bacopa is an excellent choice for any tank that you want any kind of interest outside of the water or above the water line. Because what it will do is, once it reaches the water line, it will either creep along the water, or it will creep out of the water and even climb on something next to it, say driftwood. So that's why it will be placed in the back of the tank, because it should get the tallest out of all my plants. And then in the front, like moving up towards the midground, is the Crypt Parva. And this is the only crypt that you can't just like chop off the leaves, but it also does not melt like most of your other crypts do either, once it, you put it into a new scape. So I think it should behave very nicely. I haven't actually had this plant for a while, and I'm excited to have it again. I don't know if I'm the only one. I'm kind of like a big plant nerd. If I see a plant that I haven't had in a while, it's just so exciting to just hold it in my hands and have it in one of my tanks. This Boos I've had in the package for way too long. I want to say a couple months, I know, but it's been totally fine, and it's just stayed super tiny. These leaves are just minuscule, and I hope that it will put on some size pretty soon here, but I've just basically divided in, I think, 3 little sections. And if you're planting over the period of hours or days, always keep it covered with plastic wrap, a plastic bag, and always have your mister handy while you're scaping. It comes in very handy, and then you don't have to rush. Adding some water conditioner, Fritz Complete. Time for planting round 2. I started with some bulbitis, and I apparently didn't get any footage, but I just laid a couple of kind of leaves towards the top. I'm probably going to have to take them out because there is no flow in here, and bulbitis really does like a lot of flow. And then I also added a couple of mosses. I added the Java moss, which is very fine, and then giant willow moss. And I just added a little bit of glue on the trunk, although I wound up pulling most of it off and moving it down just because of the water line. I wanted it very close to the water line, because if this tank loses any water, I don't want to lose a bunch of moss, but some of it will kind of soak up the water and travel up the trunk. And then, since this is an autumn inspired tank, I did this a couple of times. First time was on Primetime Aquatics, when I did a number of years ago my pumpkin shrimp tank, and wanted little tiny leaves, because for those of us who have nano tanks, we need nano sized items, which of course leaves are huge. And for nano tank, you need to make them tiny so that they are the size for the little occupants, so they can enjoy them as well. And of course, you can overdo it with botanicals and tannins in a tank. it is possible to kind of overdose a tank with too many tannins. So on the package it said 1 catappa leaf is good for like a 10-gallon tank. So since this is, we'd want a third of it. So instead, what I like to do, not everybody's going to want to do this or have the time or the patience to do this, but I thought it would be fun to punch leaves out of actual leaves and use those. They're tiny sized, right sized for the little inhabitants, and they look absolutely adorable. And I throw in the little pieces too, because after a while, I mean, honestly, they're all going to look the same anyways. The light I'm using is a Phoenix, and this was one of the biggest issues, along with place. Where was I going to keep it? Because I originally wanted to keep it on a little stool, but the stool was just a little bit too small for this square base of the tank. The next issue was the light. How am I going to suspend the light above the tank? Well, when I decided to put this tank on the bookshelf, well, there's a shelf right above it. So just to suspend that light somehow, and the easiest thing is I had these clips from Dollar Tree, and they're the removable ones, like the command hooks, and if you position a few, just some on the back, some on the front, there you go, it's suspended. And I was hoping that it would be a little bit less visible where I placed it, because I was trying to decide I wanted it over the majority of the plants, and also so I could appreciate the scape. It kind of washes out the bonsai tree. Kind of a bummer, so I will probably be working something else out, but that little cheat will work totally fine just for the temporary. With this autumn inspired scape, I thought it was only right to include some leaves on the actual tree. However, I cheated and I used just paper, red paper, for these ones that were outside of the water, and I just used a little bit of glue. And even when I pull these off, it's totally fine with the little glue, because if I ever use this bonsai tree, which I probably will, underwater at some point, I'll probably wind up gluing something on anyways, some sort of a plant. Here's another cheat. If you see those plants towards the base of the tree, those are plastic. I couldn't help it. I have a little mat of those, and I pulled a few of them off, and those are hanging out until some of my other plants grow in. I love hydrocodal, and this particular one is so cute. I've had it in this jar, a covered jar, with just some potting soil, rinsed off the potting soil, and I'm not even planting. I'm not even planting it. It's just kind of in the water. Which makes it another excellent choice for a plant if you want some interest above the water. And I will be using some fertilizer for the water column as well, some liquid fertilizer. These two hydrocodals are basically planting round 3, because it was done on a separate day, like the next day when I just wanted more plants. And this one is, it's so cute. I love this one because it does tend to creep, and I really do hope that this decides to creep a little bit above the water. So we'll see how it likes it here. I have mixed luck with this little stinker, but it's so cute. It's just like a miniature of the other hydrocodal. It looks almost like a little miniature ivy. Now I'm getting ready to add my new friends, so definitely want to add some Fritzheim 7. Fritz gets the cycle started, and Fritz is a channel sponsor. Here are all the products that I did use today. Any guesses who I added? Well, in this size tank, absolute must for me are shrimp. And funny story is, I really wanted pumpkin shrimp and couldn't find them. Well, I found them at Zuxai, and I also found the yellow Neocaridina. So I think my last cheat here is, well, I mixed them, at least for the time being. And then who else am I adding? The Miras. I absolutely had to have the Miras because that's what I pictured I just like the scale. It's just a really good size. The rice fish, they would probably jump. I don't have a lid on here. And I think just a little bit too active. Just the tank is a little bit too small. And then the same goes for the frogs. I think it's just a little bit too small for a group of frogs. Plus, that would mean no shrimp, and I had to have shrimp. And then, of course, once I saw these, the zebra horned snails, they're a nearite snail. I had to have them. I'm hoping they keep my tank clean, but so stinking cute. And I've got my 3 colors. I've got yellow, I've got orange, and I've got red. And believe it or not, there is an actual 4th round of planting coming up. There was one single plant that I saw at Zuxai, and I had to have it. I thought it added a little extra fun at the top and makes an even 10 kinds of plants. Super fun. You will see it in a little bit. It is a beautiful little Sylvinia. But I'm so glad this tank is done. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what your favorite part is. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next week.